Hallelujah. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Hallelujah. Welcome and happy Easter to everyone worshipping with us here at St Matthew's on this Easter morning. And welcome to the Easter Garden. It's a slightly more modest affair than we normally have in church here in the Vicarage Garden, but needs must. And it has a tomb, it has Jesus, and it has Mary Magdalene. Now, if you normally come to our Easter morning Mass at 9:30 at St Matthew's, you'll know that it's been my practice to take one of the characters out of the Easter Garden and to tell their story from their perspective. And so in recent years, I've told the story from the perspective of the soldier and from the perspective of Joanna, one of the women who came to anoint the body, and even from the perspective of the angel. But this year, I thought I would reflect on the interaction between two of the characters, the two that we see here, Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Now, we've just heard Mother Cynthia reading the Gospel of Mary's visit to the tomb just before dawn, and hearing that Gospel, I felt that there were two particular exchanges that I thought it might be fruitful for us to reflect on this morning. The first is Mary's words to the angels in the empty tomb. "Why are you weeping?" they ask her. She replies, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." She expresses great anxiety. Where is her beloved friend? He is not where she thought he was, and she can't imagine where he might be. This seems to me to be a present anxiety for many of us, and especially for those of us who have friends or relatives in hospital or in a care home. They've been taken away, they are no longer with us, and we may not even be able to imagine their present surroundings. Are they in a ward? Are they in intensive care? What are they doing? We can no longer attend to them. On Friday, I attended a death at a parishioner's home, and the deceased was taken all the way to Westminster Mortuary. And in Mary's words this morning, I felt the echo of that relative's grief. "They have taken away my mother, and I do not know where they have laid her." What we can know is that even when we don't know exactly where our loved ones are or how they are, there is one who does, who is with them continually, who never leaves them. It is Christ who sits by the bed, who keeps watch over the body, tending his beloved, your relative, my friend. They are never alone. The one who is faithful remains with them, and I hope that that can be of some comfort to us. The second exchange from our Gospel reading, which struck me, was the words of Jesus to Mary when she realises who he is. Here in our garden, Jesus and Mary are keeping an appropriate distance between themselves, perhaps proportionately about 2 metre distance. But we know that when Mary realises that it's Jesus speaking to her, she broaches this distance and she rushes to him and clings onto him. "Do not hold on to me," Jesus says in our Bible version. In Greek, this is me mu haptu, and haptu means touch. So he's literally saying, "Do not touch me." How interesting that this very topical command to refrain from touching appears in our Gospel this morning. It's not, of course, because Jesus fears contracting COVID-19, but rather it's because he has an important commission to Mary. She is to go and announce the resurrection to the disciples. She cannot remain clinging herself to Jesus at this moment. She must go and share the good news with others. I have seen the Lord, she proclaims to her brothers. We might identify with Mary's desire to hug Jesus as we think about our inability to hug friends and family on this festival day. There will be, of course, a lot less touching than normal. But as we refrain and feel the pain of that, let us remember Mary, who is obedient to Christ and accepts his commission so that her brother disciples and the whole world may share in the good news. We too have a commission to care for one another, to support our NHS and our key workers and our community at this time. And we know that the time for being closer than 2 meters to our friends will come again, and that this too will pass. The promise of that lies in what has happened at this tomb this Easter morning, the breaking of the bonds of death and all that fragments us, as Christ rises glorious and triumphant from the grave to dispel suffering and sorrow and grace us with life in all its fullness. Alleluia, Christ has risen. He has risen indeed. Alleluia.